So 3:31, so we can go ahead and start.
Welcome, everybody, Senior Commission on today. April 7th. Today. So it's calling the meeting to order. And Jamie, can you please establish quorum?
I will. Commissioner Dixon. Present. Commissioner Trapnell.
Present.
Commissioner Buckholz.
Here.
Chair Olson, or Vice Chair Olson.
Here.
And Commissioner Gallagher Thompson.
Here.
We do have a quorum of 5 commissioners present.
Thank you, Jamie. Can you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
How about be here for public comments that are items not on the agenda? Would you please step forward and introduce yourself and look forward to what you have to say?
Hello, I'm Arthur Whipple.
We can, yes.
I'm a long-time resident of Los Altos, and I'm currently a director of a group called Resilient Los Altos. And I think we have some common threads together that I'd like to express, and maybe at some point have a future discussion. So I'm not going to try and talk about anything that's on the agenda, but just to get you aware of who we are and what we're trying to do. Resilient Los Altos is an arm of the Los Altos Mountain View Community Foundation. We get our funding from various sources, mostly the city of Los Altos, but we also get from Rotary and from the foundation. And there are about 300 of us that are active in Los Altos at this point, in groups called block action teams, which cover about 25% of the neighborhoods in Los Altos, and community emergency response team members who are CERTs, who have been trained to a FEMA class schedule to be able to do disaster medicine, light search and rescue, building assessment, all those sorts of things, so that we are one of the people who will go out into the community after a significant event and be able to communicate back to the city where the problems are and where the problems aren't. Where they aren't is just as valuable as where they are, so they don't have to allocate scarce resources. So we're really involved in emergency preparation. So we're talking about being prepared for power outages and earthquakes and fires and all those sorts of things. And I've had a couple of opportunities to speak for the city. We have just recently had a study session with the city council where we talked about fire, more conflagration, which is the sorts of things that happen in the Eaton fire, and what we can do about whether Los Altos is prepared for dealing with that. The answer is not really, but it's also a pretty low risk, so it's not horrible. What I've personally been working on for the last couple of years is trying to figure out how to make our seniors more safe in this community. One of the statistics that came out of the Eaton fire was 75% of the people who died in the Eaton fire were over 65 years old. That's clearly not the demographics of that area, but seniors have a really hard time getting out of their house and getting out of the way. So you have a situation like Paradise or Fountain Grove or Eaton or any of these mass casualty situations, seniors do terribly in that kind of situation. In some cases where we have a block action team, our block action teams know who all the seniors are and they know which ones are fragile or which ones have other issues that would make them part of the access and functional needs community that we're trying to support. I think we have an opportunity through the things that some of the things that you folks are doing to share some of the things that we're doing. So, for example, I see you're doing a health fair of some sort coming up later this year. We'd love to participate if we can at some point. Where what we really focus on are the people who aren't being actively serviced by you. So you've got active seniors who show up there. There's 50 plus people that come out, they play pickleball, they do all this sort of stuff. we're really worried about the ones that are 90 years old, their caregiver lives in Modesto and comes in, 2 or 3 times a week, and they don't have a neighbor that really is aware of them. Those are the people that we're trying to service. So we've, for the last couple of years, we've been working with Community Foundation, with the Community Services Agency of Mountain View and Los Altos, to provide emergency kits and basically some thought process stuff, some psychological things that people can do to get ready for emergencies for people that they serve who are typically property rich and income poor. If they've got a big house in Los Altos and trying to live on Social Security. So those are the folks that we're trying to get this information to, so that we can service that group better than they have in the past. So I'd love to be, you don't know much about us. I don't know much about you. I read a couple of sets of minutes, and I think there are things where we overlap. We'd love to the extent that there's there, we'd love to come talk to you or be engaged in some of the things that you're doing, if that makes sense to you. So, ResilientLosAltos.org. You can either remember my email address because I gave it to you, or just go to ResilientLosAltos.org and go and connect me or contact me. All of those emails come to 3 people in Resilient Los Altos, so one of those I'd be happy to come back and talk to you.
Is there a branch for Los Altos Hills as well?
So our portfolio is Los Altos and surrounding communities. So we're really active with Los Altos Hills. Los Altos, we have different things. We have block action teams. Los Altos Hills doesn't. We both have certs and we both have hands, so we're very close with those groups. I was meeting with a gal in an unincorporated area up on Twin Hill just this morning about what we can do for that. We've had some activities in Mountain View, so we try to be centrally in Los Altos, but it's we don't make no boundaries. Yeah.
Is there a list that we know of seniors that you said live alone, don't have somebody every day and are quite elderly?
No, that's problem number 1 is finding them, because you walk up to the door and they don't answer. They've been told by the kids, it's a scam, don't answer the door. So walking up to the door and knocking on it doesn't work. If we're in a block action team, then they know who their neighbors are and maybe they do. But across 3/4 of Los Altos, those people will not. So there's not a list. We can get voting rolls, so we can know, where all the people are that are over 65. And but one of the things we're thinking about doing is some sort of a public-private activity with the city, where we would actually have city information going out to people to alert them that we're trying to find them. Then the problem after that is after you found them and they opt into getting information is we can't overpromise. There are, I don't know, 5,000, 8,000 people over 65 in the city. I mean, it's big. And, if they won't take care of themselves until the end, which is what happens often, is we talk about by the way, I'm going too long, shut me off. You have to get through the 3 Ds of disaster. The first one is denial, right? Oh, I've been through a fire before. This is no big deal. I don't have to worry about that. Oh, if that creek overflowed once before, I don't have to worry about a flood. Those sorts of things. Then you go through a period of dithering where you say, well, okay, before I actually go, I should make sure that the next door neighbor's cat is fed, and I need to check on, this and that, and make sure Amazon is even delivered while I'm gone. That dithering, and then finally you make a decision. And sometimes the decision is, hey, everything's fine, I'm going to sit here. But sometimes the decision is, I should leave. And at that point, if you're a senior, you may be too late. It's like, what you do is, what I'm trying to do is get seniors to understand through Alert SCC and Genesis, what's happening in your neighborhood, in your zip code, and that you leave when the warning alert goes up, not in order to evacuate. So we're trying to get people ready to do your bachelor stuff.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you.
So I invite you to stay because we are talking about our health fair
Yes.
today.
Okay.
And within the health fair, we do have vendors and talking regarding vendors. So that might be of interest to see
Okay.
what is going on, when, and then
I will say,
Okay, very good.
try to take so much of your time.
Thank you very much for coming in. We truly appreciate it. All right, we're up for items for consideration and action, which are the minutes from the last time. Everybody, I'm sure, had their opportunity to read them over. Do I have any questions, changes? Do I have a motion? All right, so thank you, Bill, and thank you, Brewers. We move on to the,
Yes.
motion.
Motion,
passed.
second, and then all those in favor.
All those in favor?
Any
Thank you.
opposed?
Any opposed, thank you. Any abstentions? It's unanimous, thank you. Item number 2, Los Altos Parks and Rec, marketing. Jamie, were you gonna go? Oh, okay.
Yes. So inside the packet is a general overview of what I would consider the cities and Parks and Recreation's standard process for marketing. And so specifically highlighting this before we get into some of the discussion on the health fair, so that the commission can take this into consideration as we look at how the commission may be able to supplement what the city would normally or standardly do. The first one is that we do post on our city website, and that includes the Parks and Recreation homepage, and any specific program pages that it would relate to, so that the public would be able to find the information easily. We also include the second and third bullet points. Both the city manager and the Parks and Recreation Department have e-newsletters that they send out. The city managers is sent out on a weekly basis, and for Parks and Recreation, we have a monthly newsletter that we send out. So information either on programs or events can be included and are usually included in those 2 email newsletters. We also have our social media accounts, which includes Facebook and Instagram, in addition to Nextdoor. So information about, again, programs and events are usually incorporated and sent out via those channels as well. As you walk through the community center, we have a number of TV monitors which actively rotate information. And so flyers or information about programs and events can be listed there. So there are 2 located at the front desk. And then there's also one right next to the entrance near the restrooms. And so those monitors actively rotate information. In addition, and on the side, you will see when applicable, because there are some programs and events that we don't regularly do this for, but some of our larger events, we do town crier ads, and that includes both printed in the printed newspaper, in addition to their online edition as well. And so we have those available as avenues for marketing. We also do flyers, and we have a number of flyer racks. There is the community board outside, and there are a number of community boards at a number of our different recreation facilities. For example, the gyms that we have at the middle schools, Egan and Block. We also have a community board down at Grant. So those are just examples of places where we do put up posters and flyers as well. Posters, as I mentioned, larger versions of the flyer. And then A-frame sandwich boards. You will notice those sometimes in the front of the community center. We utilize those sometimes as directional if people need to be guided or directed to a certain place, or we use them as marketing tools as well. So much larger posters, they can be double-sided because the A-frame has both sides. So we have those that can be available to market information. And then our activity guide, which is a very useful tool. We've done a number of different production schedules, but at the moment, I will just say this. The last one that we mailed out prior to this spring and summer that you probably got inside your mailbox. But the last one that we mailed out was probably winter of 2020. And then that's obviously during the pandemic, a lot of things slowed down. We were not mailing out. And so this was the first one that we brought back, and we saw an immediate jump in registration the first day. So it was a very telltale sign to staff that putting the information into the mailboxes of our residents really helped get the information out. So we are doing 2 activity guides a year. So that is spring and summer, and then fall and winter. They will be mailed out. So that is also an avenue. If you happen to thumb through, the very front of the activity guide is usually where we highlight larger events. And so that is absolutely another opportunity to market the information going out. So with that, those are the standard things that the city will automatically do with the programs and events. In the past, and just as an example, if there are specific organizations or locations that would be pertinent to have flyers or posters, sometimes commissioners have helped us to distribute information in those areas. If you, any other places that have community boards, those are just examples of supplemental things that can be helped to market information. So happy to answer questions. Looks like there are questions. I'll go this way. So I'll start with Commissioner Gallagher Thompson.
Yeah, thank you, Jenny. This is really helpful to understand what it is that you already do and will do. A couple of questions. One, you already sort of answered, can we distribute to other places like churches, YMCA, that sort of thing? Okay. But the more basic question is what goes on these? What is the content and how's the content developed? I assume you folks develop the content once things are more finalized.
Yes, so 2 great questions. First and foremost, and I will just say this, make sure we get approval to post or leave information. I can't tell you how many times, people will just leave stacks or put things, even here at the community center, just take things up on windows. And so we always want to get permission first before we put information up. And then the second part in regards to content, the staff will absolutely support creating the content. And that is mainly because there are certain marketing standards that we as the city, branding guidelines that we should follow. Number one, making sure the city seal is on the flyer or marketing materials so that it is associated and that this is a city city event or program, and then going down from there, making sure that things are legible, it has the correct date, has the correct program information or event information. So that content will be based upon the direction. So when we get further into the meeting, when you talk about, maybe the title, some of those things, it will be based upon the direction that is provided by the commission.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Having the list of Altos Town Crier ads, do we also make an effort to write articles that they can publish? For example, needs friendly, certification. I thought you covered that. I'm not a member.
Great question. And I will just say it depends. So usually the city can sometimes do press releases, and that information will go out not only to our local paper, the Town Crier, but some of the other, local ones that are here, correct. Now, that doesn't necessarily guarantee that it, it will turn into an article. Occasionally, the town crier, reporters themselves will reach out if there is a larger event and they would like to feature. We do, submit photos sometimes if they're looking for information to put. But it is not necessarily a guarantee that they will run a story, but the ad, obviously is something that, exactly, so that we know exactly what, and we submit exactly what we want published. So it is, we usually do that, and then if the town crier does want, they will usually reach out. And obviously the press release, we will get the information out to them as well too.
And I have a quick question. What is the time frame that we need to submit any requests for marketing or any material for marketing as our senior commission?
No, great question. I will just say our general rule of thumb for our department, and this is, I would say, true for any of our events or programs, is that we generally have information out at least 30 days in advance of when something is occurring. If we can get it out earlier than that, we will. But minimally, we like to give the public at least 4 weeks.
So end of July is our time frame then?
Correct.
To give you. Okay.
And so again, if information is available or finalized earlier than that, we can absolutely do that. But minimally, information should be, and so given that, as an example, the health fair is early September, that we really should have information and everything finalized in July, so that and on average, we would probably need about 2 to 3 weeks for content creation. So creating the flyers, the pieces that will go on social media, if it needs to be resized to an A-frame versus a poster versus a flyer, just so that there is ample time for staff to work on that content creation. So July should be the time that everything should be finalized. Yeah.
Ms. Olson, thank you. So for the fall, winter, when does that mean for that flyer? Not the flyer, but the
Oh, for the activity.
activity guide, when does that information need to be in?
No, absolutely, and that time frame would be the same. And so July, early July is probably, which we have the date and time, so if you notice, in the activity guide, it's not a full-size 8.5 by 11 flyer. The ads that are usually in our activity guide are quarter size, so it is very pointed or specific information specific to where, when, and the time. So the date, the time, and where it's going to be is usually the bulk of the information that is listed because of the size. So you're not going to have all of the detail that will be on, on the web page. It'll be in the larger flyer, the poster. But all of that at this point, we know the date, we know the time, we know what's going to be here. So theoretically, all of those pieces are already solidified.
I think, I don't know what this is called, but it's adult 15+ program, regular activities and featured and special. Would that be in there?
Absolutely, it would be, yes.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you. Bill?
Sorry, Mr. Buckles.
I wonder, Dr. Buckles, to me, we write letters to the editor of various pieces that go out. Do we get a list of organizations that send out notices that we have letters to the editor?
Absolutely. As far as letters to the editor, previous senior commissioners, or as residents, you could also do letters to the editor as well too. Just to let, the community know about the events. You could absolutely do that.
That almost sounds like a working group,
Potentially, yes. A working pair.
working group. Dr.
Oh,
Buckle,
You need to go past you for content.
Yes.
anybody else, any other comments? All right, so then we can move on to number 3, which is the senior hospital. And Jenny put together a report and the staff recommendation. And what I would like to do with this is actually change the numbers up in the order, to have it where we have a talk about the event layout first, because that will parlay out to the speakers, how many vendors and those type of things, and then we can go down the list from there. And so what I will also ask is that we stay on topic with the event layout. And if we have additional information, because there's a lot of decisions to be made, I'll make a note and then we can talk about that after and or put it into working clothes. Yes, Charlie.
May I get a chance to speak?
I just have a question.
Is this
Lay
one-
out the thing and the schedule.
No. She told about the room layout.
The room layout first, because, and so is this about the room layout?
It is, but I want you to finish first.
So, so that's where I know Jenny put out the map of what rooms that currently are being held.
Yeah.
For our date, and I think we have 2 separate ideas for the different layouts. So do you want to
Sure,
talk? All right,
sure. I don't need that. Can everybody hear me?
For the remote, please use the microphone.
For the remote.
The lots of the schools.
I see.
Council, please.
Very well. So, working pair of Chris and myself, we met and discussed this several times. And although our agenda was to talk about vendors, we found that the layout of the rooms was important for even figuring out how to find vendors, how to have the vendors sit and what locations, and how it would be most feasible for everyone to be able to access that. And so Chris and I have come up with 2 different ideas, and we really need the commission's input on deciding that. So the first idea is that this be the main entrance of the health fair, and people come in from this door. And we have this room right in front as the starting point of the vendors. I've been here for a book fair before and for other events where people have been using this room as well. So if we have tables laid out, people, as soon as they enter, can start seeing vendors. And if we have more than this, in terms of the lobby, yes, I didn't know the name. So the lobby, and if we have more vendors than fit into the lobby, that they would overflow into the L-shaped corridor that goes towards the restrooms. That's one idea. Second, the ballroom that is available to us. The rooms that are available are this one, the opposite one, the ballroom.
And the apricot, which is right.
And the apricot, which is next to the ballroom, right? So I had thought that the ballroom would be kept open and ready because it's available at 11 when the renter goes away. And at that spot, we create a place for panel speakers or so, and that room remains a socializing area and the area to listen to speakers. So the vendors would be only in the lobby, the L shape. Chris's idea is different. Chris's idea is that the vendors are all situated in the ballroom. And there are speakers here and across. So would the senior commission please advise?
So
Yes,
if I've missed out something. If we could pass.
Can we pass it on, please?
Thank you, that was a good summation. What I am anticipating and having had discussion with Jamie on this, and she can clarify, when doing in the ballroom, we have the access to 20 to 30 different vendors being able to set up there. They will have an hour. They can come in at 11. The event starts at 12 with staff, and having plenty of staff to set the tables up. There'll be plenty of time for the vendors to set up and be ready for the public to come in. One consideration when having regarding, I'll just keep going up. And then for the speakers, you have 2 different rooms for speakers. Not sure regarding what that room could or would be used for. That can be determined another time. But then you have a nice small area for speakers and a very intimate setting, so that way they're right there. And in addition, I will hand it over, with the vendors in Jabari's idea, there will be, it is not closed off just for us, it will be open to the public. So the lobby and the hallway will be open to the public during this time. The number of tables that would be able to fit in this area, Jamie, would be approximately what?
It would be small, depending on the direction. So as an example, if any of the commissioners came out to our open house, the Grand Oak is an enclosed and open space. The lobby has furniture already there. So if you were here for our open house event, all of that furniture had to move to make space for vendors that were located in the lobby. For the open house, that was the only thing, the whole center was specific to that event. During the health fair, it would not, the community center would still be open for other things going on. So having the vendors just located in the hallway would be a little bit more challenging. So it, at least for setup, would be a little bit easier on staff if it was specific to one particular location. Also to this lobby space, is slightly more open, but we can talk about a little bit more on that once we get to some of the other elements. But the space is a little bit more limited in regards to the hallway versus the Grand Oak, which is a little bit more spacious, especially if we are able to open up the, it's a beautiful day, the doors to the courtyard can be opened out. So there, we can also incorporate a little bit more of the outdoor space if that is needed. So just for consideration by the commission as you decide what would make most sense for the event.
So are there any numbers, equivalent numbers of vendors? That
It would be less than that maximum, at least in regards to where they could be located here. Because the law, and the perfect example too is, because you do have to look at paths of travel that you're not blocking entries or exits. So if you look at that, and I do have the map up on the site as well, the lobby is not quite as large. And so that would limit the amount of vendors that you could have versus utilizing a space like Grand Oak.
So, comment on that, a couple of thoughts. One was Commissioner Cohen, Chair Cohen was here last time. She said she would like to, she thought a good idea would be to have blood pressure readings in the lobby. And she was going to contact public health with approval, contact public health nurses from where she used to work in order to set up blood pressure stations. So her thought was to use the lobby for that, as well as to have the flow and to have the vendors in the Grand Oak was something that our subcommittee had been thinking was going to happen, because we were looking at using 3 rooms for speakers, so that there would be 3 simultaneous speakers happening simultaneously in the 3 separate rooms. So we make use of all the available space. So that's that's another proposal, or that kind of building on what you suggested, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Dr. Buckholz?
Yeah.
Having so much in the lobby, this is a Tuesday at midday. What is the amount of traffic?
It does vary, and it does depend, in the, mid to afternoon, and if you, looked out earlier, we had a number of tables where, individuals were playing mahjong. We do have individuals that are working on their laptops. We sometimes, have individuals working on group projects, or having small meetings, or just, enjoying and, relaxing in the space. So it does vary, and it also depends on what is going on. In the 12 to 3 timeframe, that usually is when we do see a number of people in the lobby space.
So it would seem at least hospitable to the visitors if they had free range of movement.
Correct. Now, for a special event, and that is something for a variety of elements. So it also, everything is interconnected. So I think, if the determination can be, if the focus, and that will help the working group of, Vice Chair Olson and Commissioner Dixit, if the focus is to have the vendors in Grand Oak, then that would give you kind of an upward ceiling of, 25 to 30 vendors that could fit in that space. If it is the direction of the commission that you do want, although staff would not recommend to do the lobby spaces in the hallways, because that would reduce the number of vendors that you could have. And would affect, to your point, Commissioner Buckholz, the general traffic that would be coming to the center. Then you would have less, vendors that you could do, and then that would be, the direction that the working pair could then, work on and outreach to the vendors.
Question, is the open space between the 2 wings going to be open for social activities?
It absolutely will be. So the space, if you notice, and I'll highlight this. So if you notice, this whole area inside here is the courtyard, but the area that we usually designate is the area that's closest to the Grand Oak. That is probably where you want. I will just say this because the playground is here, and that is a very popular site for people to, and there are public restrooms that are here. You would not be able to designate this whole area. So we usually designate the area that is closest to where the doors open out from the Grand Oak. So that is, but there's absolutely access, but it wouldn't necessarily be just designated for the event.
So I understand that there are different uses that will be needed. One is a place for people to socialize, a place to eat hot lunch. The size of the rooms for speakers, what is capacity? How many people could be in that room?
So other food for thought, and another of why staff is recommending that the vendors go in Grand Oak is because the lobby and hall spaces are already set up with seating areas. So if you take away that, then you would have to create another space for people to sit, chat, socialize, eat, those types of things. If this space is designated for the vendors, these areas, so there's banquettes, there's the tables, there's the benches. In the lobby, there are lots of 4 top tables and chairs already. So those spaces would absolutely be open to those that are attending the event, and they could socialize in that way, sit down and rest for a second, have their snacks for the event. And that would be all through here. And then, I'm sorry, what was your other question, Commissioner Buckles?
Where in the room in which the
Gotcha.
speakers will come?
So at the moment, again, Grand Oak, again, that will be for vendors. Sequoia, which is the space we're in, that has a general max capacity, and that's based on the number of chairs. We can have about 48. We could probably do a little bit more. Occupancy is a little bit higher than that. This is the second largest space that we have. Manzanita is the other space that we have reserved for the event, and that is a maximum capacity of 36. And then the other space that we have, which is a similar size, it's slightly a slightly different shape, but Apricot is also 36 as well.
So we have 4 or 5 rooms.
There's 4 rooms total that are reserved.
So 3
for the
small and
event.
1 big.
Correct. 1 large, 1 medium, and 2 small. Only because these are the 2 36, 48, and then Grand Oak, which if you want numbers wise, theater style can go 220.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So commissioners, here's what is my dilemma. The intent of our health fair, I hope, is not just measuring blood pressure and looking at vendors. The intent in my mind is to be educated about senior health. And for me, that means having the ability to have speakers and the attention of everybody who is coming to the health fair at the same time. Dividing speakers and having them simultaneously essentially means you've lost 1/3 of your audience to one room, 1/3 to another room, 1/3 to a third room. Instead, when we first met and talked, we talked about a panel, and having a panel sitting together in the ballroom with the audience facing all 3 speakers or all 2 speakers or 1 speaker and everybody listening is the target of, otherwise how are we different from any other health passerby?
I remember exactly that. We've been going back and forth with subcommittee on topics. And what we've come up with is a large range of topics, not 1 or 2 topics that we could do a panel or like a keynote speaker. And we had a recent meeting with Amanda, who is the person organizing the senior healthcare for Cupertino. And also, he recommended as well having a broad range of topics. She said that what she thinks what makes their successful, one of the things is that they have listened to the community over the years, and they have kind of a list of topics that they try to cover. So between her and our group, we put together a list of 12 topics. And we don't have to do all 12, but if we use the 3 rooms, the smaller rooms that are available, you could have a maximum of, what is it, 9, I think.
30.
I forget, I'm good at math in my head, but it was
30 each in 2 rooms.
three different talks in each of the 3 rooms, so you could have a maximum of 9 presentations in the time available. So it's a different model,
Yeah,
you know, it's like
whatever
a
the
little
commission decides.
bites of, you know, the short, she recommended also short times, 30 minutes, no more than 30 minutes. She said that's, you know, experience and no attention span. And by that time, people are, you know, antsy, they want to get up, they want to move around, they want to go to the next thing. So she recommended 30 minutes speak, talking, 10 minutes Q&A, and then a time for getting from one room to the next. And she said if you plan it that way, you could get a maximum of 9. So.
Is this going to be on the event? Are we ready for the vote?
Yeah, let's decide, and so.
Are you ready for that on this, of which layout you would prefer for this? That's what we're talking about right now, is the layout.
And the choices
The oak
lobby or
lobby versus the oak room. Are you ready? Or, okay, so do I have a motion? Do we just vote? We're gonna vote on whether using the oak room for vendors and the other rooms for speakers, or utilizing the lobby for vendors and the oak room for speakers.
So we could ask the commission who prefers utilizing the Grand Oak space for the vendors.
Okay. And who,
If you would prefer the lobby space,
Lobby space or any other space
except.
I don't even mind if you have vendors here.
Okay, so not the Grand Oak.
Not
Not the Grand Oak.
But however, whatever the commission decides, I will go with.
okay. So we've taken the vote 4-1. No abstain, so we will go with the Grand Oak
Yeah.
as the vendors.
Yeah.
Okay.
And at this juncture, may I make one request also?
Before I get out of the loop, I would like to make a request that I be one of the people who can work with the staff to help with the flow on the day of the event. If I can volunteer, if there is such a space,
That doesn't come up, so I was.
so while we're here, I thought, go ahead.
So we'll put that on the work.
Yes, please.
So. Thank you both.
Thank you for that request. So I will put that on the working pairs for the flow.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that. So now prioritize the presentation topics.
And with that, there are 2 ad hoc subcommittee reports that were in the packet. And so Commissioner Gallagher Thompson or Commissioner Buckholz, if you wanted to summarize or provide context in that regard. Commissioner Gallagher Thompson, you did a little bit of background with your meeting with Amanda from Cupertino, but if there's anything else you wanted to add.
Well, she did strongly recommend public, including public safety, and so she recommended the fire department, the police department, and the CERT teams. So I didn't realize Resilient Los Altos kind of over rules or supervises the CERT teams.
Yes.
Yeah, so she recommended that, and also evolving technology, so topics that we had not thought about before in the subcommittee, in our meetings with, Dr. Buckholz and Jim. We hadn't thought of those. We had thought more health related, which her point was, well, these are very important for health, public safety, like, you know, how to make your house safe, for the fire department, when to call 911, what do you do when the first responders come? It's a very practical information, the CERT teams, so now Resilient Los Altos, how does that work? And then involving technology, because we're always engaged with being hacked, right? So how do you deal with that? Or who do you call, or resources? So it was an interesting discussion, and I listed all 12 topics. The ones that we had talked about that are more obviously health focused, and then these additional ones. On the topic.
Thank you, Dan. I'd like to put this particular event in context of knowing that we will be having multiple events over the coming year and years, so that it will be impossible to put everything into this one day. So I'm looking at the style of presentation of education. To make this I use the word dignified, possibly not precise, but the kind of speakers I was imagining would be those who are well known in the community as experts in their field. In individual polling of my peer group, the areas that are most often mentioned as really, what am I going to do about this? Are the mental acuity issues, whether they be dementia or depression, or what they call MCI, minimum cognitive impairment, which I think I said. And so for the speakers, I've organized a bunch of such events. And having a talk by someone who really knows what they're doing and is going to cover multiple level of issues in that particular topic, 45 minutes is just about minimum, with a quarter hour then for Q&A. So that adds up to 1 hour per speaker. Undecided is whether this would be sequential speakers or simultaneous speakers. The concept of a panel discussion is something I would imagine would follow the presentation from the teachers, and these would be the people who would be requested to speak are going to be teachers. So that panel discussion, I think, should include people who are just have experienced some of these challenges, so that they know how they have addressed them, the problems that they've had, the solutions that they found. So this would be a open to the public kind of panel, which then, if I do my math correctly, would be like the third hour. Again, it's not going to be a total hour because of the moving around. But it would be something that would involve the public to be active in. And I think that if we want simply to present information, we can do that with a video. We can do that in many different ways. If you want people to have an opportunity to make decisions about what they're going to do with their health, they need to process things and be able to talk even among themselves. So I think times and a location for people to talk to each other, and that would be particularly in the panel area, it's going to make evident the kind of things that we need to address next time we have one of them. So I think that all of the issues that you presented are worthy of a very strong presentation. I don't think for the first off, we can do more than at least have teaching level speakers at 45 minutes each, and then a panel of X amount of time. But my picture of the timing of the events is very different, I think, from what you imagined. I'm looking at my experience of putting on over 35 years of practice, a lot of programs, and I have a sense of the rhythm that they take.
Thank you, Bill.
So I appreciate what you're saying, and I really agree that there are two very different proposals here before the commission. So the more more in-depth what you're suggesting to read a pound, and the kind of overview, hitting on a number of topics, not in any great detail, but giving an introduction to a number of different topics, and hopefully then following up with the various other venues and resources that we have to be able to take, or to go into more depth, like in the senior lunches and other things that your department does for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So, the reason I'm really promoting this idea, even though it had not been my original idea either, you and I talked earlier, I was much more aligned with Bill on that. But the reason I'm not at this point is because this is a health fair, not an academic setting. We're talking to community members who have different levels of education, knowledge about health, different degree of exposure to all of these topics. So I think we need to be cognizant of our audience, and I think for the purposes of the audience that we're trying to reach, we would be better off with the variety of topics that are covered in a short period of time, developing interest, whetting people's appetites. Then we could get a survey of what they would like to go into in more detail, and then use this as kind of a springboard for setting up the future talks that would do exactly what Bill wants to do, go into depth on a particular topic. So I don't think it's an either or. I mean, I think it's an and. It's just maybe the right kind of sequence. It's not an either or.
I also think that we have to think of who the audience is. The audience, according to in the past, will be 200 to 300 people. And that'll be over the course of 3 hours. And so capturing people, giving them an opportunity to get the information, pop in and get the topics that they want, and then be able to have access to the resources, or be able to ask the person afterwards for their individual. It's one where we are just tapping into our community. We don't know specifically what they want. Each of us has our own individual idea of what we want, and I think this is a great way for us to get out there and cast our net, get feedback from this particular event, and then be able to go into more of an academic, or have those speakers specifically and come for the adult 50 time during a lunch or during an evening. And maybe it's like we talked about a speaker event. And so I think this is a great way to cast our net, find out what our community wants and needs, and make it a success, and make it easy for people to gather information and then ask questions.
I think that at some point we have to decide, is this going to be focused on education and the specific ways that people learn? Or is it going to be a multiple choice question. I have a preference, and seems to have a preference, also for us. I'm happy to have a vote from the council members of how they see this initial event.
But we also have to move on and decide, so. Yeah. Did you want to? Yes, I did want to say, but,
The one thing that comes up to my mind is that several of the topics that are listed here are already being discussed at different events at the community center itself. Fall prevention happens. Stay connected, public safety, fire department, all of these evolving technology happen several times during the year for members of the public who come to the center, as well as the around 50+. So I am, for want of or lack of having broad width of experience, I am still very much in favor of having two topics. Experienced teachers or research faculty department chairs from Stanford or somewhere else. And two topics only, having a dedicated audience and go from there. But as I said before, I go along with what you say.
Well, it's called the fair, it's not a seminar, so I would go with pick the thing that are of interest and cover the basics, and then maybe we'll schedule some things in 50+ talks. I mean, I know those talks, they've had an AI talk already, so and it wouldn't go a little bit into depth. So I would go with the idea of picking, I don't know, maybe 5 or so things to focus on. We don't have a survey, so we don't know what people would like to hear. So we just use our own experience.
So it sounds like our options are, you're wanting a couple in the panel. You're wanting, another option is to have a number of speakers in the different rooms to cover a number of different topics that could appease the broader population of the surrounding area. Is that correct? Did I have both options? Are we ready to vote? Okay, all those in favor of having, 2 speakers, is that right, or a few? How many did you want? What was your,
I was thinking just 2 topics.
Oh, no, I was thinking of more speakers.
more speakers, okay.
5,
Having
6.
a couple of speakers, like 2 speakers and a panel. Please vote if you would like that. And then for multiple speakers. Multiple speakers. Is.
Where's Jim when we need him?
And so it looks like for our initial, we will go with multiple speakers. All right. Thank you very much, everybody, for your input and voting.
My one suggestion, Vice Chair Olson, is, and this is to help the ad hoc subcommittee, so I know the kind of majority today is going towards bites of multiple topics. My suggestion when I met with the ad hoc subcommittee is that we prioritize the topics, because selecting speakers, let's say that the particular person is, and maybe there are multiple options that can speak on a particular topic, but if that particular person or the individuals that you reach out to are not available, by prioritizing those topics, the ad hoc subcommittee can then systematically go through those, and then we can, easily go through that and not have to slow down, so that the commission can weigh in on what are the top priorities of the topics that we really want at the event.
Could you remind me who the subcommittee is talking about?
Yes, so the ad hoc subcommittee is yourself, Commissioner Buckholz, Commissioner Gallagher Thompson, and Commissioner Basiji, who is not here today, who is absent. We do have a number of working pairs, but that is throughout this, it seems that the ad hoc subcommittee wanted to really focus on the presentation piece of it. And then we've assigned working pairs on the specific tasks, like reaching out to vendors, like doing, maybe working with staff on the layout. So, the ad hoc subcommittee that I'm referencing is yourself, Commissioner Gallagher Thompson and Commissioner Basiji.
The critical vote.
Potentially, but at least at this moment in time, I think it would be, and Commissioner Gallagher Thompson did, based upon the meeting with Cupertino, the individual that is organizing, that was suggestions. We do not have to just go with this if there are other topics that would be of interest, but I do highly recommend that we at least prioritize what topics that the ad hoc subcommittee should focus on getting speakers for.
Okay, thank you. So anybody, oh, Sally.
If you want me to.
Would love your. As you all know, it takes a few minutes to get moving. So, yes. Podium, okay. I was just gonna say, and Commissioner Buckholz, you had mentioned council, but council wouldn't get involved in a decision like this. So it's up to the commission. I will say that and I'm set, but you know, I try not to give you my opinion, but I firmly believe that what Cupertino has suggested is the way to go. I'm not a medical doctor, but I spent over 20 years in the profession. This is not a medical conference. To use a food analogy, because who doesn't love food? This is a smorgasbord. We're going to offer things for people to taste and sample. And they're going to want to spend time with the vendors, and they're not going to want to sit 45 minutes and we're here to give them an introduction to topics that they can then decide if they need to learn more about. We're not here to teach them everything there is to know about healthy sleep patterns, for example, or whatever the topics are. So I support what Jamie said, prioritize the topics and look at it as a smorgasbord, because that's what this is. It's set up as a health fair. And that's one council member's opinion, and that's probably all you'll get, so. Sounded German to me, but.
All
All right, so now we're focusing on topics that we would like to for sure cover. And that way it gives a guidance to the ad hoc committee for the speakers.
Can I let me pass this down? It's very cumbersome. You know, when you lots on them.
I'm getting the exercise.
So just, many of these fall into one topic, which is the understanding of dementia. The other topic that I really like is the caregiver topic, because that's really important, and many people who are caregivers need the attention that they don't get. But the other topic that I see here, which is nutrition, I like that. However, the exercise, of course, I don't like exercise, but anyway, including demos of the exercise, I don't know how you will manage to get that done. Given the fact that we have vendors, we have blood pressure, we have food, we have, I don't know, that was my.
I'll say something. Everybody's worried about dementia. You know, everybody over a certain age. So I think it would be good to focus on things that most experts agree would prevent that from happening. And it's the same thing, you know, it's the food you eat, the exercise to do, the social contacts that you have, the ways to keep your brain active. So I think that could be a topic that we cover those things, how to prevent it.
Again, the reason I looked at these particular topics is those are the problems that people have talked about the most. All of the other things about nutrition are equally important. All of the other things about physical movement are also vital. It's more a question of, if you're going to have a smorgasbord, then you get to nibble some of it. If you're going to have an educational experience that answers the, or perhaps even puts to rest some of the fears, that's going to take possibly split up into multiple different speakers. But people want to go away with the sense of, I feel better now that somebody has given me some potential solutions. And they're gonna absolutely the outlook of somebody who's been in a position who's treating people. So I say that is not necessarily the consensual perspective.
Well, several of the topics do address that. I lost my keys again. Is one, you know, if you could find a person to talk about distinguishing normal aging, signs of normal aging from signs of dementia, and ways to maintain your brain as a separate topic along the same lines, but that's the prevention that you talked about. The one about caring for the caregiver is important and real relevant. So they get at that problem of dementia from different viewpoints. Sleep is an important component. Stress is an important component. We're learning. It's not only here, but what we didn't come up with a big one in the previous discussion, but it's another topic that could be considered. So this is just a rough draft. This is a draft of topics that, based upon previous discussions and the input from Amanda and Bill's prior experience and my experience in working in the field, these are topics that we think are important and that we think would be relevant to the smorgasbord approach. So I think your topics are represented in this floor of bites.
So focusing in then on the presentation topics. So we've all agreed that preventing dementia, caregiver, our public safety, whether it be in the home, what to do when emergencies come up. Those are all, and exercise, and nutrition. So these, exactly. So those I would say would be those to focus on. It doesn't mean that when speaking, the speaker group, working pairs or ad hoc group, excuse me, comes up with topics for the speakers, you can focus in, and dementia could be your exercise and sleep in one, or whatever. I'm getting down into the small things, but I think the preventing of dementia and determining how many speakers you have and what rooms, so we have those, and the timing. So if we're going to be doing it in half an hour, and if we do the 3 rooms, or if we decide to do 2 rooms and be able to have a flow. I think we're still in the early stages right now. It's not the time to decide. I think it's let's get the speakers on these highlighted.
get speakers without topics.
Well, with these, we have the prevent, all right, so then we have prevent dementia. We have food, we have exercise, we have sleep, social. Mhm. What could be do I have dementia or is it just my old brain? You know, good.
My question here is that, for example, I had in mind a speaker who is the director of the Geriatric Institute at Stanford. If I were going to ask any of you to approach this person or approach them on your behalf and introduce them to you if you don't know them already, how do I give them a 30-minute topic, which is where have I lost my keys? No, then this agenda specifies that I don't invite such a person. It's not worth their while. This is a piecemeal agenda, smorgasbord. Somebody who is lower down the rung will be fine for us.
It's not a research.
I'll go for turf and turf. Just too turf.
Now my understanding is that.
So, very good point. We don't want to waste their time. But then again, this is for the general population. And they could be coming for a speaker talk specifically for them
Yeah.
in the future.
Yeah.
And so it is a way to get our feet wet and find the topics that our residents are totally interested in, then we can get a higher level speaker to come in specifically for the talk on them.
Can we start, inquiring from the people who come to the community center, what kinds of education topics they would like to, see? And then basically, this is, research on what are the things that people want to know about. And I would think that would be how I would approach, choosing topics, is the ones that are most commonly mentioned.
But we're talking about seniors, not just the general population.
But keep in mind, we also have suggestions from Cupertino, who has run this for many years, and these were topics that come up year after year. And so,
And Jim also did a lot of research on this, and he presented a list of topics, and so there's been several lists of topics that have circulated around, and we tried to summarize, you know, what were the ones that most frequently appear. These are the ones, in terms of prioritizing, it seems like we took off the falls one, and that was the only one that got removed. And all the rest of them are there, so we should try to find speakers for all of them.
so then,
Well, I feel a impossible topic,
okay, so we're gonna
medical system.
Yeah,
How do you
we're gonna
fix it?
skip that. So, so for item number 2, for prioritizing, we have, preventing dementia, and the topics under that are food, exercise, sleep, social, which would love input, you know, how do we get those that are not out there, to be able to become socialized, caregiving, and public safety. Right, and there's also a topic coming up this month, here. All right. Move to for the topic, 6 topics.
Yeah. Done it, right?
Mhm. Do I have are we ready to vote? The topics would be, let me repeat. Prevent dementia through nutrition and food, through exercise, sleep, socialization, caregiving, and public safety. But all vote for yes in those topics. All right. No abstaining. All right, we have our topics. Thank you very much, everybody. And what we have to do, if it's okay, is to select a title for this particular event. And that way we can get our marketing and everything moving forward. So does anybody have, all right, so
Healthy aging.
healthy aging. Yes,
You can add fair or expo.
expo, healthy aging expo. Once,
Or healthful aging. Whichever, what we do now.
Age well, live well, to be, something that should be the most, vital thing.
I like it too.
okay,
This flyer for, Cupertino, live well, age well. Health Expo. Expo is fair, I don't care. But those are eye attractive, words.
oh, yeah, I like the expo on that. Anybody have any other comments? Suggestions? Should we go with, for Cupertino, follow their lead? Live well, age well, health expo.
My only 2 cents is Cupertino is a neighboring city, and if we have to, granted, they're very different times, but we also don't want to confuse one event with another. Again, I think it is great, but there's lots of words that I think we could maybe come up with.
Taking place, so it would be confusing.
Can we use live well, age well, health fair? Would that be sufficiently different that we would be confused?
That's kind of an in-between.
Yeah. Little close there.
So where did I leave my house?
My heart and San Francisco, right?
It's not so much about living, living healthy, because for seniors and aging, healthy aging.
Yeah, health span.
On my feet down.
Well, I'm just gonna be putting that in health span, because you can have a long lifespan, but your health span is really, are you able to live the way you want?
In fact, there is some new thought on the subject, which is, don't just worry about how old are you going to get to, but whatever it is, make it really healthy and good.
Yeah, that's a health span.
Live long. And live well.
Live long and prosper.
Let's just call it bring me up, Scotty.
Optimizing.
Health as the age.
That's what happens.
Well, I don't have to do that.
Do we have any decision making power?
Can we wait? No.
Well, that's
Another one that-
Can a working pair beside this?
Yes, if you want to assign a working pair to select the title.
Rather than us deciding now or waiting for the next
Yeah.
month, let's have a working pair beside this. Who would like to? Is that good? Are you good with that?
I think it would help us to get the speakers, which I'd like to start getting now. If we have a deeper work title, then we follow our red title, it's healthy aging or something like that.
A healthy lifespan.
Healthy lifestyle. That's a good one.
Yeah, healthy lifespan, to the rescue.
Does that cover caregivers? Does that work?
I mean, it doesn't have to cover every single thing.
Okay.
It doesn't cover Indian curry.
Healthy lifespan.
Or
Yes,
you
there
could
we
just
go.
allocate this back to the ad hoc subcommittee, because they are the ones that are going to be getting the speakers.
Okay, so we've got a good
So
start
we've
on
provided feedback, and then based upon the speakers, the ad hoc subcommittee can firm the title.
it. Very good.
Thank you.
So before we leave this room, to be put a date and time for the subcommittee for the.
Well, so
In
what I would
week.
like to do is have working pairs, set up. Yes, I know we've got a few things. Working pairs for speakers, we have that, that's in the ad hoc group.
That's
or-
in the ad hoc.
Okay, and then working pairs for marketing. You wanted to do layout, is that right?
I wanted to lay out and staff help.
Marketing would be the layers, working with the city and
That,
ads and I'd like to do that.
Alright, so then event layout.
that's,
Okay.
I'm gonna bug it.
Am I the only one or is there another marketing couple?
I can help. if you-
Well, we've got Jim also.
Can you be on different working team?
You can be on as many working pairs.
So I
The
can-
only reminder I will put, I know this is all tied together, but you need to be specific to your task. So marketing is marketing, event layout is event layout, speakers are speakers.
Right,
We need to put, for this purpose, we need to put those boxes. You have to stay within your box.
Could you remind me again the specific event layout?
So the layout, how, the vendors, the tables will be, where
So
some
the
of the,
distribution of vendors and rooms
correct,
and the specific function for each room.
correct.
okay. So, do you,
I'll help the layout.
okay,
I can go to that, or go to the layout.
and then
You
we
and I
have
layout, you and I marketing, very nice.
Who's where?
I am.
food, Charlie's doing food, do you want to do food with her?
Wonderful.
I'm one day out. And then we're
Okay.
actually not gonna do anything, they are.
And Dolores would like to help you with food?
Help me with food?
Yes,
Oh, yes.
you're on.
But I'm only asking Los Altos youths to buy us food, but it'd be really nice to talk to somebody about.
About healthy food, you know, that looks like.
But I can't do too many things, so I'll back out as soon as we decided on the food.
Okay. Was there, and then we have a giveaway to attendees, I'm happy to work on that one.
Lovely.
In fact, you're on everything.
That's why I said I'll back out
Yes.
from the, as soon as we know the vendors, I'll back out from vendors, I'll back out from, yeah.
So, you don't know the giveaways?
I am,
Okay. You need somebody?
if you want.
I was thinking of next month, make yourself healthy again.
With a hat?
Oh, we can, what about, like,
Like that.
Okay. So then,
Make that the-
all right.
No teacher?
Make
Any
that-
other thoughts for working groups, working pairs? for this?
No, I think.
Okay, so,
timeline.
very good.
And timeline, within 2 weeks. Come up with decisions. We don't have so much time though. We can't wait a month.
A working group for, obtaining speakers.
Yeah. it
Yeah,
should-
that's
should-
That's
As ad
Come
hoc
up in
committee.
2 weeks and let's.
So I think it's fair
I
we
spoke.
give
Three
your
things
input to Jamie, and then Jamie can, tell everybody what has been, what's transpired, and then we can move forward from there.
But Chris, leave the timeline because it will be a whole month. Otherwise, we don't have time. 2 weeks.
2 weeks for, I'm sorry.
Coming to decisions on all these things.
So that's why we've assigned the working pairs,
Yes,
so
each
that,
of those.
so
give
that you can work on all of those individually. Again, as I mentioned, your specific task or topic needs to stay in that box, so food is just your, hey, you've been, delegated to work on that. Or speakers, to select those speakers. We already have a working pair for vendors. You can now outreach knowing what the maximum is and kind of the general prioritization of those topics. That can fall, all of these pieces, the working pairs can now go and do those things. Obviously, if you have questions, reaching back out to me, so that I can, provide guidance or answer questions if needed. Then at the next meeting in May, you can report back out where you are in progress.
A quick question.
Yeah, sure.
Ms. Gallagher. So I had discussed with Los Altos Hills about providing food. And they had asked a question which we need to ask Jamie, that how many attendees do we expect? And they also wanted to know if we have pre-registration so that they can be assured of a certain number. They need to allocate a budget. So
No, so I can work specifically with the working pair to answer those questions. In general, for this type of event, I think a good average is probably 200 to 300 people. That's about what we, Parks and Recreation got for our open house. And especially since this is, and the event that was that happened down at Grant, now that was just the vendor portion. There was not a presentation portion to that particular event. There was probably at least 150 to 200 that came through. So I think 200 to 300 is a good estimation of what should be anticipated for the event in September.
okay, I'll start an email trail with them.
Yes. And so I can work, I will be your resource for all of the different groups. Just remember to be specific to your topic and only email the individual's working pair. Your email should never have more than your working pair partner or your ad hoc committee. Just remember, no more than 3.
What's on the, gift menu? Okay.
Yes. And as a breakdown, with all of these assignments, I will make sure to get this out to the full commission so it is clear who is on each of these working pairs and who is on the ad hoc subcommittee.
Can we volunteer Jim for anything? Or not?
Yeah, give a giveaway.
Yeah. can
Can
we
you be on your speaker committee? Jim is on the speaker
Right,
committee.
I know, but can we volunteer him for anything else?
I don't think we came up with anything with states. 'cause it's all-
So we've already had, again, working pair is just that, no more than 2. And so if someone, we can break out, a few more things. If we would like, but we do have at least decent representation here, and some of these tasks are smaller, and obviously city staff will be supporting. Again, this is as an example for marketing. it is taking, liaisoning and kind of working with what the commission is, but city staff is gonna be doing the work to create it.
So that's why I was gonna say that I can back out of marketing if Jim would like to take that on. Is there any way to ask him?
So, my suggestion would be, since he is not present, maybe we can look at that and, we can assign to who is here and who is interested. We can always add that as a section when we get to, either the continued conversation, which the health fair will be on the next agenda as well.
I'm happy to help you take over marketing if you want.
No, please do.
Okay.
And the question about coffee and snacks and that kind of thing. Is coffee allowed? Would like to bring in Pete's Coffee. If you could get Pete's or Starbucks to volunteer.
Oh,
So my suggestion is, we can, the plan is to have a budget. And we can bring in a vendor to provide, or we are able to bring in a coffee cart to do that. We actually did have a coffee cart at our Parks and Rec open house. So, we are absolutely able to do that. And so that is something that the working pair for food and snacks can make suggestions and decide.
It was allowed, okay.
It is.
will it break quorum if I have to? leave?
Can we have the vendors specific to the topic we're going to be addressing?
Yes. And so to your question, to keep a quorum, we need 4 people. So as long as we have 4, then we are, and then we are still in quorum.
Are there any other discussion points? Okay, I think we're all done. Do we have anything that we can? Do we have a motion to close or for this close?
No, so, I guess the only other thing, that took lots of really good work there. All the other pieces are informational, which are included in your packet. There is the only other, piece, the work plan has been updated. So again, that, is reflective of all the working pairs, and I will update that for all the new working pairs that were just created. So that will come back at the next meeting as well.
You're gonna send it by email.
Correct. Correct. So is there any questions on anything else which is just informational that was included in your packet? No? Okay.
So I call this meeting closed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. The other Chris, I'm gonna meet you tomorrow morning, but I'm gonna need more chairs. I don't know if we're gonna.